Alex Eala's success just triggered a sponsor war across the US and Asia, and nobody saw it coming. A teenage tennis sensation from the Philippines, defeating world number 2 Iga Swiatek and Madison Keys in Miami, suddenly became the most sought-after athlete in women's tennis. Brands from opposite ends of the globe are now locked in a fierce bidding war. And the question isn't just who will win, but what this battle reveals about the future of sports marketing, national pride, and the new rules of global sponsorship. March 2025, Miami Open. The sun blazing over Hard Rock Stadium as a 19-year-old from the Philippines walked onto center court to face Iga Swiatek, the world number 2 and 3-time Grand Slam champion. Few expected what happened next. Alex Eala dismantled Swiatek in straight sets. Not close. Not lucky. Dominant. The kind of performance that forces the tennis world to pause and recalibrate. Days later, she defeated Madison Keys, a former US Open finalist, proving Miami wasn't a fluke. By the end of the tournament, Eala had done what no Filipino had ever accomplished: break into the WTA Top 100. But the significance went far beyond rankings. This was a cultural earthquake. In a country where basketball reigns supreme and tennis has long been seen as a sport for the elite, Eala became a symbol of possibility. A girl who trained at Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain, who survived injuries and setbacks, who clawed her way through the junior ranks to the professional stage, suddenly stood as proof that Filipinos belonged on the world's biggest courts. The media coverage exploded. Filipino news outlets ran 24-hour features. Social media timelines flooded with highlight reels. Her Instagram followers surged past 350,000 within weeks. Vogue Philippines put her on the cover. The country hadn't seen a tennis star like this since the days when Felix Barrientos competed internationally decades ago. And then came the moment that changed everything off the court. Brands started calling, not just local endorsements or small partnerships, major global corporations, American sportswear giants, Asian conglomerates. Everyone wanted a piece of Alex Eala, and the competition for her signature was about to turn into an all-out war. Her post-match interview in Miami revealed the weight she carried. "I want to inspire every Filipino kid who thinks tennis isn't for them," she said, her voice steady but emotional. "If I can do this, they can dream bigger." Those words resonated across 2 continents because what Eala represented wasn't just athletic excellence, it was market potential. Southeast Asia, a region with over 600 million people, had been largely overlooked by tennis brands focused on Europe and North America. Eala was the bridge, and sponsors on both sides of the Pacific Ocean knew it. The question was no longer whether she'd secure major deals. The question was who would win her loyalty, and at what cost. What happens when a teenager becomes the center of a billion-dollar marketing battleground? The first brands to move weren't American. They were Filipino. Globe Telecom, one of the Philippines' largest telecommunications companies, and an early supporter of Eala, immediately began renegotiating their partnership. They backed her during her junior years, but now they wanted exclusivity. Billboards across Manila featured her face. Television ads showed her rallying against Swiatek with the tagline, "From Quezon City to the world." Bank of the Philippine Islands followed. BPI had sponsored Eala since 2022, but after Miami, they doubled down. Full-page newspaper ads, social media campaigns positioning her as the embodiment of Filipino perseverance. The messaging was clear. Eala wasn't just an athlete, she was a national treasure. Then came Locally Juice, a rising Filipino beverage brand targeting younger consumers. They signed Eala in early 2025, capitalizing on her relatability and authenticity. The campaign featured her training routines, recovery sessions, and candid moments off the court. It wasn't about glamour, it was about grit. And it worked. Sales surged. Eala became synonymous with Filipino pride. But these partnerships carried emotional weight beyond profit margins. For decades, Filipino athletes had been overshadowed by basketball stars or boxers like Manny Pacquiao. Tennis was a niche sport, inaccessible to most. Eala's rise challenged that narrative. She trained abroad, yes, but she never forgot where she came from. Her Instagram posts alternated between tournament updates and shoutouts to Filipino fans. She wore the flag like armor. Asian brands understood something American companies didn't. Eala's value wasn't just her tennis, it was her story. A girl from a middle-class family who broke barriers. A teenager who balanced international competition with Filipino identity. Brands in Southeast Asia saw her as a gateway, not just to Filipino consumers, but to an entire region hungry for representation. And they were willing to fight for it. Regional sponsors from Thailand, Indonesia, and Malaysia began reaching out. Tennis academies across Asia wanted partnerships. Sportswear brands based in South Korea and Japan explored endorsement deals. Eala had become more than a player. She was a movement. But while Asian brands mobilized around cultural pride, American corporations were watching. And they had a very different strategy. The war was just beginning. And the next move would come from the most powerful sportswear brand on the planet. Nike had been sponsoring Eala since her junior days. But after Miami, they realized they had a problem. They treated her like a developmental athlete. Modest apparel deals, no major marketing push. Now she was beating top 10 players and capturing global attention. If Nike didn't act fast, they risked losing her to a competitor. So they upgraded significantly. Industry insiders reported Nike offered Eala an enhanced multi-year contract, complete with performance bonuses tied to Grand Slam appearances and ranking milestones. But the real play was cultural. Nike launched a limited edition of Filipino Heritage Collection, shoes and apparel featuring traditional Filipino patterns, the colors of the flag, and Eala's personal logo. The message: "We see you, we value where you come from." The collection sold out within hours in Manila. Social media erupted with photos of Filipino fans wearing Nike-branded Eala gear. It was a masterclass in localized global marketing. And it worked. But Nike wasn't alone. Wilson, one of the biggest names in tennis equipment, began circulating rumors of a potential racket and apparel deal. Fake social media posts claimed Wilson had offered Eala $45 million over 5 years, an absurd figure that was quickly debunked. But the rumor itself revealed something important. Brands were willing to throw any number into the conversation to gauge public reaction. Then came the most outrageous fake report. Ikop store clued as $200 oval pouts. A fabricated Instagram story claimed Nike had offered Eala $290 million, positioning her alongside LeBron James and Serena Williams. The post went viral before being exposed as false. But the damage, or rather the hype, was done. Eala's perceived market value skyrocketed. Even fake deals were generating headlines. American brands understood what Asian companies sometimes underestimated. Eala's appeal wasn't limited to the Philippines. She was multilingual, trained in Europe, and carried herself with the poise of someone who'd navigated elite international circles since childhood. She could sell to Americans, Europeans, and Asians simultaneously. That versatility was rare and expensive. Nike's upgraded deal reportedly included clauses that gave Eala creative control over Filipino-themed campaigns. She wasn't just a billboard. She was a collaborator. That distinction mattered. Because while Asian brands offered emotional connection, American brands offered global infrastructure, media reach, distribution networks, and association with legends like Sharapova and the Williams sisters. The comparisons to Emma Raducanu were inevitable. Both teenage sensations, both breakthrough stars who captured imaginations overnight, both immediately thrust into sponsorship-feeding frenzies. But there was a key difference. Raducanu assigned massive deals before proving long-term consistency. Eala's team seemed determined to avoid that trap. Still, the pressure mounted. Every tournament became a showcase. Every win raised her price. And every brand, from Adidas to Under Armour to regional powerhouses, was watching. But behind the glamour and the money, a deeper tension was brewing. One that had nothing to do with contracts and everything to do with identity. The sponsor war around Eala wasn't just about money. It was about who owned her story. Asian brands framed Eala as a symbol of Filipino resilience and Southeast Asian pride. Their campaigns emphasized her roots, her journey, her connection to home. Every interview clip of her speaking to gala, every photo of her with the Philippine flag draped over her shoulders, these were the images Asian sponsors amplified. To them, Eala was proof that global success didn't require abandoning your identity. American brands, on the other hand, positioned Eala as the next global tennis icon. Their campaigns focused on her performance, her potential, her place among the sports elite. They highlighted her wins over Swiatek and Keys, her ranking climb, her future Grand Slam prospects. To them, Eala was a star in the making, and stars transcended borders. The clash was subtle but real, and it played out publicly. When Nike released the Filipino Heritage Collection, some Filipino fans celebrated the acknowledgement. Others accused Nike of cultural appropriation, arguing that an American brand had no right to profit off Filipino identity. Social media debates raged. Was Nike honoring Eala's heritage or exploiting it? Meanwhile, Filipino brands faced their own criticism. Some argued they were using Eala's success to guilt her into staying loyal to local sponsors, even if American deals offered better financial security and global exposure. The phrase utang na loob, a Filipino concept of debt of gratitude, surfaced in discussions. Did Eala owe Filipino brands her loyalty because they supported her first? Or did she have the right to pursue the best opportunities, regardless of geography? The fake sponsorship rumors added chaos to the confusion. A doctored image circulated claiming Emirates Airlines had signed Eala to a $2 million deal. It was false. Another post alleged Adidas was preparing a hostile takeover bid to steal her from Nike. Also false. But the proliferation of misinformation revealed a broader truth. Eala had become so valuable, so contested, that people couldn't distinguish reality from speculation anymore. Fans debated endlessly: Team Asia versus Team Global, loyalty versus ambition, national pride versus personal growth. The discourse became emotional, sometimes hostile. Comment sections on her Instagram posts turned into battlegrounds. Some accused her of forgetting her roots if she leaned too heavily into American partnerships. Others accused Filipino brands of holding her back if they couldn't match international offers. And through it all, Eala remained relatively quiet. She posted gratitude for her sponsors. She repped the Philippine flag at every tournament. But she didn't weigh in on the debate directly. Perhaps she understood that no answer would satisfy everyone. What became clear was this: the sponsor war wasn't just a business competition. It was a referendum on globalization, identity, and what athletes owe the countries that raised them. And the stakes were higher than anyone realized. Beyond the contracts and campaigns, the battle for Alex Eala exposed a fundamental shift in sports marketing. For decades, tennis sponsorships followed a predictable formula. Dominant Western brands signed dominant Western athletes: Sharapova, Federer, Nadal, Williams. The model worked because the markets aligned. But Eala represented something different. She wasn't Western. She wasn't from an established tennis powerhouse. Yet she had crossover appeal that traditional stars couldn't match. She spoke English, Spanish, and Tagalog. She trained in Europe but represented Southeast Asia. She was comfortable in Manila boardrooms and Miami press conferences. That versatility made her a unicorn. The real prize wasn't just Eala's signature. It was access to Southeast Asian markets that brands had largely ignored. The Philippines alone has over 110 million people with a young, digitally engaged population. Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia combined. These markets represented billions in untapped consumer spending. Eala was the key to unlocking that potential. Nike understood this. Their Filipino heritage collection wasn't just about honoring Eala. It was a test run for broader Southeast Asian expansion. If the collection succeeded, Nike could replicate the model with athletes from Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam. Eala was the proof of concept. Asian brands understood this too. If they could keep Eala loyal, they could position themselves as credible alternatives to Western giants. They could prove that local brands could compete globally, that Filipino companies could sponsor world-class athletes without American or European intermediaries. The comparisons to Emma Raducanu became more relevant. Raducanu's post-US Open sponsorship spree generated over $20 million in deals within months. But her on-court results struggled to match the hype, and some brands quietly distanced themselves. Eala's team seemed determined to avoid that trajectory. They weren't rushing into mega deals. They were building carefully, ensuring Eala's brand grew alongside her ranking. But the pressure was immense. Every tournament mattered. Every loss risked damaging her marketability. When Eala struggled in certain tournaments after Miami, critics questioned whether she could sustain the momentum. Brands grew cautious. The sponsor war cooled slightly, not because interest disappeared, but because everyone wanted to see if Miami was a breakthrough or an outlier. Eala's own words provided insight into how she navigated the chaos. In interviews, she repeatedly emphasized her desire to inspire Filipino youth. "I want kids in the Philippines to see that tennis is possible for them," she said. "That they don't need to come from wealth or privilege, they just need to believe." That authenticity resonated, because unlike athletes who delivered corporate talking points, Eala seemed genuinely connected to her mission. She visited schools in Manila. She posted training tips for aspiring players. She engaged with fans in Tagalog on social media. She wasn't performing a Filipino identity for sponsors. She was living it. And that's what made her dangerous to established marketing formulas. She couldn't be boxed in. She refused to choose between being Filipino and being global. She existed in both spaces simultaneously, and brands had to adapt to her, not the other way around. But as the war raged on, one question remained unanswered. What did Alex Eala actually want? As of early 2025, the sponsor war around Alex Eala continues to simmer. No single brand has secured total exclusivity. Nike remains her primary apparel sponsor, but Filipino brands like Globe and BPI maintain strong partnerships. New deals are rumored, but unconfirmed. The market is watching, waiting for her next move, both on and off the court. What's clear is that Eala has fundamentally changed the economics of tennis sponsorship. She proved that athletes from non-traditional tennis markets can command global attention. She demonstrated that cultural authenticity and commercial appeal aren't mutually exclusive. She forced brands to reconsider their geographic priorities and marketing strategies. The broader implications are enormous. If Eala continues to rise, if she cracks the top 50, wins a WTA title, makes deep Grand Slam runs, the sponsor war will intensify. More brands will enter the bidding, more markets will open up, and more athletes from Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America will realize they don't have to wait for Western validation to build valuable brands. But there's a flip side. The scrutiny will grow. The expectations will multiply. Every loss will be analyzed. Every sponsor decision will be questioned. Eala will navigate pressures that most 19-year-olds never face, and she'll do it under the weight of national pride, corporate interests, and global media attention. Her coach and mentor Tony Nadal believes she has what it Alex has the mentality and the talent to be among the best in the world, he said in a recent interview. The question is whether she can handle everything around the tennis. That's where champions are made. Filipino fans remain fiercely protective. They celebrate her wins and defend her during losses. They buy her merchandise and pack arenas when she plays in Manila. They see her not just as an athlete, but as a representative of their dreams, their struggles, their potential. American and global brands see something else. Return on investment, market penetration, brand alignment, the future of tennis demographics, and somewhere in the middle is Alex Eala herself, a teenager trying to win tennis matches, honor her family, represent her country, and navigate a multi-million-dollar business ecosystem that's betting on her future. The sponsor war revealed a fundamental truth about modern sports. Athletes are no longer just players. They're brands, symbols, investments, and cultural icons. And when an athlete like Eala emerges, young, talented, authentic, and strategically positioned at the intersection of multiple markets, the competition for her allegiance becomes about far more than endorsements. It becomes about power, influence, the future of global sports marketing. So what happens next? That depends on Eala, on whether she wins, on whether she stays healthy, on whether she can balance the weight of expectation with the freedom to play her best tennis. But one thing is certain, the sponsor war across the US and Asia isn't ending anytime soon. Because Alex Eala isn't just a tennis player anymore. She's the prize everyone wants to win. Was this just about sponsorships? Or did it reveal something deeper about who gets to claim a global star's success? Alex Eala's journey from promising junior to global sensation triggered a sponsor war that exposed the shifting power dynamics in tennis marketing. Asian brands fought for cultural ownership. American giants leveraged global infrastructure. And caught in the middle was a 19-year-old trying to honor her roots while reaching for greatness. The battle for Eala's signature isn't over. It's evolving. And whatever happens next will shape not just her career, but the future of how athletes from emerging markets are valued, marketed, and celebrated. The question isn't whether Eala will succeed. The question is, who will benefit when she does? If this story left you wanting more, if you want to follow the sponsor wars, the rivalries, the drama behind women's tennis, hit that subscribe button. We're diving deep into the stories the headlines miss, the battles, the emotions, the truth. Don't just watch tennis, understand it. See you in the next one.